Going in three. We're live. Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Slumber Party. Thank you for bearing with us during some amazing technical difficulties. But we're thrilled because we truly have an icon on the podcast today.
Who? This is exciting.
I don't know. I'm not sure who we're gonna
Well,
get.
I can't wait to see who it is.
Could be Ashlee Simpson. Could be.
I thought it was just me on the show.
The woman of many voices. We'll see. We have been doing interviews with women who've played Elphaba on Broadway and on tour. And today we have a very special person, someone who you all watched on MADTV. Her Ashlee Simpson impression is truly one of the funniest things I've ever seen. Her Ellen DeGeneres impression, her Britney Spears impression. She won an Ovation Award for Funny Girl. And of course, she played the iconic role of Elphaba on Broadway. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage, Nicole Parker.
Thank you so much. Hello. We had to move where I was sitting because my connection wasn't good. So that's why I'm appearing as a grainy ghost to you all. So normally I wouldn't find myself in such poor lighting, but it is what it is.
You look fantastic.
That's kind of you.
How is it going in life?
Well, I have an almost 1-year-old, so it is challenging. I don't recommend having a baby during a pandemic, but in the same vein, it's very similar to quarantine. Taking care of a newborn into what he's almost 1 years old is, I mean, I've spent most of my year in pajamas. I've spent most of my year at home. I've spent it in this bed. So I did not have to change my activities very much because I was already pretty much doing this. Just without the extra, I don't know, fear of like the world coming to an end. That was added in.
That's a nice twist.
Yeah.
I don't have a child, but I was doing all of those things anyway pre-quarantine as well. Just
right.
Sitting in my pajamas and watching a lot of Parks and Rec. Yeah. Well, we're so freaking thrilled to have you here on the podcast. What my first Elphaba question, if we could dive right in, the question I've been asking all the Elphabas is, was it fun?
Oh yeah, I watched yeah. And she had a really good answer. I loved her answer because she said, when you're well, it's fun. But for me, I had two very different experiences. I mean, yes, there's elements of it that were fun from the beginning, but my Broadway run was very different from my run on the first national tour because Broadway was first for me, which I think it was I know I was the first woman to do it on Broadway without having done it anywhere else.
Oh, really?
Prior to that, everyone else had done it once as an understudy or a standby, or they had been on tour before. And now, subsequently, lots of people have just gone into it cold turkey without having done it prior. But I auditioned for it fully expecting to be, if I got anything, I'd hopefully be an understudy or a standby, or maybe do it in a different city or whatever. So I did not agree with their choice. At first, I was like, really? Are you sure? Because that seems crazy to me. So I was, it wasn't even my Broadway debut, but it doesn't matter because it's Elphaba. It's just very scary. And so I think that there was a lot of mental stuff surrounding it. And so that was not fun, but the cast was amazing, and meeting fans who loved it and how it connected to them or how they connected to it was fun, and flying is really fun. And I always used to say running out for the curtain call is really fun. It's like the most fun part of the show because it's over. There's nothing like standing there waiting for good to start. There's just such a peace that comes over the theater. Everyone's sort of like is finishing up stuff backstage, maybe a few, wardrobe supervisors are doing things, like people are hanging out and getting ready for the last scene, and there's just like a quiet that comes over the theater, and also you're just standing there like drenched in sweat, so happy. You're like, oh God, there's one more. This is it. This is it. That's all you have to do. And that but the joke about the curtain call being fun is just because it is really fun to be done with it, because it's fun to know you accomplished it again. Like that, I don't know,
Yeah.
that part was very enjoyable for me.
It's like you were like running a marathon every single time you had to do the show. Like, can I just get through?
But all fun.
Oh, I think our internet is being, oh, there we
We
go.
have a very unstable internet tonight, and so apologies.
We're
The tour
gonna
was
work
all
with it.
fun for me.
Can you talk a little bit about that? Why was it so fun? Uh-oh.
I felt like there was when I did it on, oh boy, this is
Uh-oh.
riveting
Oh, we're
right
back.
now.
We're back. Here we go.
Okay.
When you did
It's very
tour.
dramatic. When I did the tour, I knew how my body would react to it. There's a sort of fear when you start it. You're like, well, I guess I'll just keep doing it until I can't do it anymore, or until I get injured, or until something happens, or until I get sick, and you don't know your body during that show. You don't know your routines. You don't have anything set. So by the time I returned to it 3 years later, I was like, it was still challenging, but I was like, I know this. And also I allowed myself to go out some nights and have fun with friends, because I realized for me, I'm so social that not going anywhere and not doing anything, because the social life is like everyone says, you live like a nun, you do all that stuff, but it can be really detrimental. Like if you know how to do it safely, like you should go out and like be a human every once in a while. And so I gave myself that on tour, and it made all the difference. And Ali Mozzie was really funny, because she was my Glinda both times for the most part, both on Broadway and on tour. And she knows how hard it was for me in New York. And she was like, we were talking about, she was already doing it on tour, and I was going to join her. And she's like, okay, but this time, buddy, you got to have fun. And I was like, yes, you're right. So your question is very apt, because like she knew too that it should be fun, and it should be fun. And that time around, I just wasn't as in my head, and I didn't worry about. At the time when I did on Broadway, it was still a very big ticket. It was still a very big deal. Not like it's not, but this was before
But it was
Hamilton.
still
This was
very
before Book of
new.
Mormon.
Yeah.
It was one of the shows. Not like it's not. It is still a tried and true, huge hit. But there was still more of the sort of lore around it, at the time, and I felt more pressure. I just simply felt more pressure, and I took that pressure off myself when I went on tour, and just had a blast, uh, and gave myself an easier time. Was like, oh, maybe Wizard and I at 1 in the afternoon on a Sunday for the 1 p.m. matinee. It might as well have been 1 a.m. It sounded like it was 1 a.m. sometimes. I always said that at 1 p.m., if there was ever a matinee at 1 p.m. on tour, you might as well just sing The Wizard and Asshole, because that's really what we sang. And you just kind of like go, it's okay. Like you move on, and it's like probably not as bad as I thought it was, or if it was bad, then I'll just try better. And you just don't sort of die 1,000 deaths, or at least I didn't, the second time around. And if I had a rough day, I would just sit in the chair getting green, being like, people would die to do this. This is the coolest thing in the world that I
That's
get to do
cool.
right now. It was easier.
That's really,
I had more perspective the second time around.
I hope people can embrace that for everything that we do, because I feel
Mhm.
like I'm a person I'm really, really, really hard on myself all the time. I started doing stand up like 2 years ago,
Oh, nice.
post like doing musical theater for many years.
Mhm.
And that, what you said about the Elphaba pressure, I'm sure Lily Cooper was on before this and Julia Maroney before her. And they both said the same thing, that it's like just so much pressure on the woman who is like, has to do that part, and on the Glindas as well.
Mhm.
But it's such a good thing to remember that, like, yeah, even though something is so pressure filled, like, yeah, not beating yourself up about. I mean, I have recurring nightmares. I've never been in Elphaba, and I have recurring nightmares that I'm up there and I lose my voice, and I just have to simply the wizard and just kind of take it down.
I think most self-hubs have Wicked Dreams, and I have had a recurring one at least 6 times, and it's always the theater, but not the theater, and it's the show, but not the show. And I've always just shown up and they're like, why don't you do the show tonight? Which is a hilarious idea, that would ever be a thing. And every time someone won't make me green in time. So like the song is starting, let us be glad. And literally I'm like, I'm not green. There's no time. And in one of the times a guy had the like chroma cake green or whatever. He just goes like this. And he just gave me like a slash of green. I'm like, that's not enough. It's terrifying. Those are the dreams that I have. But again, what's important about the distinction between tour and Broadway as well is like on Broadway, I felt like I was walking across stage with 8 other women behind me. You are at that point being compared to everyone who's carried that suitcase, to everyone who's done a special, it's especially for, I'm talking about like the fans, the ones that are in the front row, the ones that are filming you, the ones that will say you at the stage door, you did so-and-so's riff, or you sang, or you held the suitcase like so-and-so, or you did the line different than so-and-so. You're like, everyone has their favorite. If they've seen it throughout the years, they have their favorite, and they're comparing you to sort of this, I almost say it's like that thing of like the evolution of man, where it goes from like monkey to, have you seen that thing?
Yeah,
It's not that, but it's literally, no one is stooped, but literally it's this sort of like poster of just like every Elphaba, everyone's just walking the evolution of Elphaba, and it's, everyone's different, everyone's changed, but it seems like you're walking in their shoes, literally. Sometimes it's someone else's shoes that already did the part, because their name's in it. But on tour, I feel like sometimes you go to a city like Sacramento, for example, they probably maybe have not even been to New York, they might not have even seen, so you might be their first Elphaba, and there is something to the energy of that in a theater, on a tour situation, where a lot of times in New York you can feel like an entire audience is like, like that, like,
yeah.
So I get it, she flies, what else you got, where in Sacramento or wherever you go, it's like, it tends to be a little bit more of an event. And I think that I think that's why maybe there's not as much pressure. Like there's an excitement, there's an excitement certainly on Broadway, but there is a certain energy that seems different when you go out on tour. It's special in its own way, which I think also made it fun.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's something I haven't really thought about that much, but I lived in New York for like 7 years, and you're so right. There is something so accessible about theater there that you do become a little bit jaded about it, just as an
And just
average
very
theater goer.
critical. And I get it. There's a lot of money being spent. So, it better be good. But I do tend to find that audiences that there's sometimes enter with their arms crossed, and I don't know how you can be open if you enter with your arms crossed. Myself included, I found myself doing that too. So I count myself in that group.
Yeah, but yeah, the people in the comments are asking a ton of questions. Tom Lank
I see those.
wants to know,
Tom Lang. Hi, Tom.
are you friends with Tom?
Yes.
He said,
I can't see it at
Nicole.
all. How funny.
It's because we're only on the Zoom, but if you were on the YouTube,
Oh,
it would
got
pop
it.
up. He said, Nicole, did you do original recipe? Whoa, at the end of Defying Gravity, or did you do some riff thing? Are there, quote, rules about what you're allowed to do on that part? That's a good question.
Like there used to be. I don't know what the rules are now. I don't think that they're like they used to be. I was just trying to survive when I first got to New York. And so I don't think I played around with much at all. And then on tour, played around more, but it seems like there's a slight little bit of room for variation even when I was there, like, but I don't think they wanted you every night to be doing like, or whatever, it's just, And here's the thing, most days, you don't want to do anything extra. Most days you're like, can I go, like that's what you really want to do. But that would never make it on the 10 best list. So
bring her down.
Yeah.
So funny.
That's what I dare someone to do on a Wednesday afternoon, and just have the audience be like, oh, did she die? Her career did.
Oh.
I'm just kidding. I'm not even talking about anybody. Why was that a snap? So, that's the funny thing about like extra riffs, at least for me. You really only bust those out, or at least I did, when you're like feeling amazing and it's like a Sunday. We used to joke, I think, we'd be like a Sunday matinee or Sunday night, end of the week. It's like, here they come. Here come the fun, and so I really didn't even experiment with it until, and every once in a while you might get a note of like, okay, enough with that. For me, it was less like riffs that I tried and more me and Allie just getting into a lot of trouble during like the popular scene, because stuff would happen and then we'd kind of go off script a little and they'd be like, okay, all right, cute, stop,
Can you
and
talk a
that
little
was
bit
more the
about
trouble that we got into, not riffing.
I want to know more about that because I mean, I posted on Twitter today. I was like, it is so unbelievably iconic and cool that you and Anna Gasteyer have contributed so much to the comedy world and like these
Mhm.
iconic sketches and comedy characters, and you belt your face off and played this role. What was it like going into Elphaba also with your comedy background?
That's so funny. You're gonna really like this. It almost makes me cry because I remember this moment so much. But I first saw Anna Gasteyer. The first time I saw Wicked, I saw Anna, which was everything to me. And it was not on purpose. It's just how that happened. I mean, I wanted to see it in New York. I think it had already come to LA on tour, I think, but I just happened to be in Chicago. I can't even remember why. I knew a friend who knew Anna, and so she connected me to her assistant or whatever, and I got tickets through her. But I didn't know Anna at the time. I hadn't met her yet. Um, and to me, I was like, up until that point, people had like said to me, like, because I did, quick side story, I did Martin Short, Fame Becomes Me. That was my Broadway debut, and
Oh, awesome.
it was just a spoof of one man shows that Mark Shaman wrote and was in, and it was completely ridiculous and silly. And I did a lot of impressions in it. And then there was a Wicked spoof in that show that was in the same key, and it was very pastiche and very much like there was a very like kind of note in there. And Bernie Telsey, who casts Wicked, was like watching I don't know, put in rehearsal one night, and he was like, "You should do the real part." And I was like, "No, no, I shouldn't." At that point, people might have said that to me, and I thought, there's no way in hell, there's no way in hell, that seems too hard for me. It scares me. Again, there was so much lore around it, like people have their vocal cords jump out of their throat like in Aliens, like there were literally such ridiculous stories. It was like one girl got her head cut off, it's like it was just so like dramatic about like what happened to you if you did the show, that I was like, no, God, no, I'll stick to sketch. But that's the only reason when it became like maybe possibly real for me. And again, still hadn't seen it at that point. And so I was in Chicago and I got to see it. And what's so funny is I didn't know how funny it was. Like I only knew the soundtrack. I knew the soundtrack was funny, but the dialogue, I did not know how funny the script was, how clever it was. I didn't know anything. And the second she started doing it, it was a big deal to me. I was like, oh my God, I can maybe do this. Like it's Anna. Like she's the only other person that I understand, because I know that she and I both had musical theater backgrounds, but then at the same time we had improv backgrounds, and we both did a sketch show, and we both did Elphaba, but at the time I was just like, okay, if she can do it, that shows me the way of like, because I see what she's doing and I know she's bringing humor to it. And it was everything to me. Once I saw her do it, it was the only time I started thinking, okay, maybe I could do this. Um, and definitely, especially once I was like, oh, Elphaba's funny, like she's darkly funny. Like I get that,
Yeah.
because any comedian didn't fit in as a kid and had to use humor to beat you to the joke that they're going to make about you. And that's exactly what she does in the first scene. She literally says, that comes out of the gate with those three things, that she's like, I'm beating you to it. I know I'm green. I know I'm different. I'm 7 steps ahead of you. And so that, coming to it as a comedian, that's of course how I identified with the role in the first place, because again, any comedian will tell you usually, I mean, I have a one woman show that is like a spoof myself of one woman shows where I say something about like, this character is like, I gotta laugh. And I thought, what was that? Can I do it again? Can it keep me safe? And it's a joke, but it's really funny and true. I mean, but it's really
It's so
true. It's
real.
funny because it's true. And so that is definitely how like I immediately identified with it, because before, to me, she was just songs. She was just just sound. And then
Yeah,
all of
yeah,
a sudden I
yeah.
saw the whole show and filled in the blanks. I was like, oh, okay, like okay, I get it. And then after seeing her, it's all I thought about was trying to get that part. Even though I would go
That
back
is
to
so
Mad
cool.
TV, go back to Mad TV and have this amazing job at Mad TV, but I sat in my dressing room just fine, and I didn't know better, so I tried to find any clip I could, and I got to know all the Elphabas, and the bad thing about that was I got to know how um, very honest the fans could be, but I didn't
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, I was a fan and also would love to do it, but it still felt like a pipe dream. I'm not in LA. I'm doing, you know what I mean? Even though I'd
Yeah.
already done like the whole level that I think to, but it's a very long answer to your question. It ask that because I actually don't know that I've ever even told if I see another girl do it that I would even see a way in, but she has always been like one of my favorite people because she's done the things I do. And I never was able to decide between comedy or musical. Like I couldn't. It's like I fell in love with Bernadette Peters and Gilda Radner on the same day, when I was a kid. It's like there was no, I can't separate one from the other. I just can't.
I my
By
heart
the
is
way,
so
I love
full
it. You
hearing you
you
say that.
froze you froze like this. I actually couldn't tell if it was a freezing up, but you were like that for such a long time. I was like, oh, I killed him. I killed him.
I'm protecting my heart because I think it's going to explode based on what you just said. I mean, the last 10 years of my life have been longer than that. Have been that I started doing stand up when I was in fourth grade, and then took a long
Okay,
year.
first of all, who are you? What gigs were you doing? I love that you started doing stand up in fourth grade. Like at
Nicole,
recess, you're
Mrs.
like, guys, are you with me on this? Guys. The guys' bathroom. Am I right? Am I right? Am I right? Guys. I love
Heather,
that's an adorable
Mrs. Johnston's
that you did
fourth grade
stand
class
up
was
in fourth grade.
cracking up. They were cracking up, but that I like started doing it there, and then
Oh no.
completely. Oh,
Oh,
are we frozen again? Are we frozen? Okay. Oh wait, are we back? No. We'll let it sit for a
completely
second.
frozen. Oh, come back to
Okay, then
me.
we're out. Are we back? Are we back? Oh, can you hear me? I can't hear you at all. Oh no. Oh no, oh no. Oh no. Unfortunately, we're a little frozen, my friends, but I think hopefully it will be okay. Oh, Nicole has left, but she will be back. She's going to try to pop back in, I think, but I am going to ask her all of your questions that you have been asking. Whitney Dillon, I'll ask her if she had a character that never made it to air. Oh, are we
Oh my
back?
god, hooray. We're back, I
We're
think.
here. All good.
Oh Lord.
I was just saying, oh yeah, I think we're good now. I was just
Wait,
saying,
I want to talk more about you doing stand up in fourth grade because I'm obsessed with that.
yeah, like the fourth grade talent show. I just did like a Jewel impression and like I think like a
I
Hanson joke, and it
amazing.
was so fun. And then,
Amazing.
but I was so in love with musical theater that I
Mm.
remember being like, I love making people laugh more than anything in the world. But like, when I close my eyes at night, all I'm thinking about is like people singing.
It's
Like,
basically like whatever you're doing, you miss the other thing more. Like when I was doing Wicked, I was like, oh God, I just miss my improv friends and I miss doing musical improv and all that stuff. And then I would do that and I would be like checking, Broadway World all the time and I'm doing Mad TV or whatever, it's just
yeah,
basically basically I'm the worst and it's impossible to make me happy. Because I always feel like I'm missing out one way or the other. That's why there's a few jobs that were dream jobs for me, which was the Martin Short show, because I was with the same kind of weirdos, like Mary Birdsong and Brooks Ashmanskas, and people who had
oh,
backgrounds in both, with sketch, with character, with improv, with and Marty, of course, because they wanted people like us that we don't know what to do with ourselves. And this show said, "Come, we have something to do for you." And I could have done that show for the rest of my entire life because it hit everything I love to do. It was everything. And then Funny
yeah.
Girl was the other thing because it was like the same sort of vocal load of why does that sound like a very graphic term.
Welcome to
Um,
Sirius XM
vocal load.
porn.
I
Vocal
don't know. Let's just
load.
skip it. Let's pretend I didn't say it. I think that's
Okay.
best. I think that's best for everyone. So the VL of Funny Girl is about the same as Elphaba, but like you get to have fun and you get to be funny and it's silly. Elphaba's just screaming and crying about monkeys the entire time and everyone looking at you like this. And Funny Girl, you get to have moments of like, it was still not nearly as hard as Elphaba because there was a release of like silly numbers and silly scenes and silly songs. And that's another job I could have done for the rest of my life. It's like very few and far between the moments where it's like a perfect, you know, like marriage of both of them. Because that's
Yeah.
what was weird about doing popular. Because I mean, that I normally play roles that are the silly roles that get, so I'd be watching Glenn, I'd be like, what, isn't this so weird? I'm not playing Glinda. Like, not in any way of like, I should be playing Glinda, any Glinda.
No, but just
The
like
opposite was a
this is
genius.
usually
But it's
my
like, oh,
track
this
in
is
the
so funny.
show.
I'm playing such
Yeah.
a depressed person, Obviously, I tried to bring as much humor to her, but it's not like people walk away going, Elphaba was hilarious. Like, that's not the aim. And if they are
Right.
saying that, then you probably did your job right, and you're probably getting fired after the show. But so yeah, so the few times, so that was hard actually as an improviser, of course, because when something goes in that show, this you're not supposed to totally get because the show is such, that the phrase, I don't know, but it's you can't necessarily shift things around because there's cues and there's safety and there's people running and whereas like Marty's show, people went off script and he did crap all the time. So it's like my first Broadway show is a very loose introduction to what Broadway actually is like. We did not play by the rules. We did not follow the rules. We did not have rules. And basically Marty was a little school kid who tried to make you laugh on stage. So it was very different to go from creating a brand new show, which was so silly and which was ours where anything went, to immediately replacing into a show that was a machine in a good way. It must run like a machine. It must, otherwise people would die. So that was very different. So the instinct to sort of like, ooh, something just happened, I want to call it out, but you couldn't. Like one time, the Kevin Kern, who was Fiero for a time with me, came out and the lion scene, or sorry, the train scene where he says, "I've been thinking a lot about the lion cub." You know that part?
Yeah.
You don't have to remember that part. I mean, I barely remember that part. It's right after
sadly,
it's
I
like
do. I remember every part of it.
It's after they've had their little like thing of rescuing the cub and like,
Yeah.
and then they're at the train station and he's like, I've been thinking a lot about the Lion Cub. One day, Kevin Kern literally went, I've been thinking a lot about the Lion King, and then like immediately like made a face. And those are the moments where the improv brain in me wants to just go with that and do something. It's like you can't, so you just shoulders shake and you just try to get through the rest of the scene, because it's hilarious. But so I mean, there are times that that's kind of, I think, what you're talking about. You're just split down the middle. I'm split down the middle at all times.
Yeah, I've felt that many times. Yeah, many times. Of speaking of your improv brain, musical improv. My friend Zach Reno, who is in the chat.
Oh my God! Hi, Zach Reno. How do you know Zach? He's my favorite.
Zach wrote and directed Voldemort the musical, which I did.
Tom Link is also
we
my
went
favorite. Just so you know, those two are.
Say that again.
I realized I didn't say Tom Link is my favorite. Tom Link's also my favorite. I just have to get that on record.
Tom, we love you as well.
They're both my favorites. Go on.
Zach wrote and directed the Voldemort musical that we started doing at UCB, and then did in Edinburgh, and then London, and then Thrones, the Game of Thrones parody musical.
Yeah.
Too. And so I was talking to him about you because I was looking up more stuff that you were in, and I saw that you were on his podcast, and I was like, oh my God. So anyone listening or watching, you have to listen to Off-Book
forced
podcast.
my way into that podcast more than I should be allowed. I mean, all I want to do is play with those guys. They're brilliant.
Nicole, I just listened to Attorney at Love. I don't know if you remember.
That was my first one. Of course I remember, because it was my first one. I loved it. That was fun.
There was a moment in there where I can't remember if it was you or Jess, but you have a whole song about Michael Bublé that you're coming up with off the top of your damn head.
Yes.
And somebody said something to the effect of, you might not want this crooner. then you should check out Harry Connick Jr. And I was like, ah! I was like, they're doing it. They're doing perfect musical improv, right? And tell me about.
There's a harmony that the three of us hit in one of those songs, and I when I heard it back, I was like, I'm obsessed with it. The three of us made the beautiful note together, and it was made me the happiest. Sorry, what were you going to ask?
I just want to know about musical improv. About what I were you a Baby Wants Candy
I was.
person?
I sure was. I was. I performed with Baby Wants Candy in Edinburgh in 2001. Again, this is why I will be Madame Morrible in like 2 years. Very, very old. But I did Baby Wants Candy when it was like Jack McBrayer and Josh Funk, who ended up, in fact, you put the clip of Les Mis up on the Les Mis sketch from Key and Peele. Josh Funk did all their music, and he was amazing. And he's an incredible musical improv guy. He was doing it. I mean, Baby Wants Candy is, there's actually one, if you want to see one scene, I don't know who put it up, but it's actually one of my favorite ones. Is me and Peter Gwynn, who's brilliant, and it was one of the original guys in Baby Wants Candy. I did a random show at, what is it? What's the show where, it's a Soho Playhouse. I think it was at Soho Playhouse. We did a show, and it was on the set of a Charles Busch show. I don't know. It was like a whole set of like a cathedral. I don't know. It's hilarious that we were doing a show. We pretended it was our set. But it was like a zombie musical. All I know is someone put this one duet of me and him up there. And I'm just like, happy that there's just even one scene of me doing Baby Wants Candy. Cause it's like, I can't think of a time. It's
so magical.
Happier. I can't think of a time when I'm happier than when I'm improvising a musical. It's truly my favorite thing in the world. If I could make a living doing it, I would, but that's not really a thing. But it's my absolute happy place because that's the perfect like nirvana of everything I love to do. And like I was just watching the documentary of Freestyle of Supreme on Hulu, and I was like, yeah, guys, that's it. That's the jam. Like that's the sweet spot. Yeah, Baby Wants Candy. Those people are insane. Like that group, everyone is so quick, and it doesn't, and for them, not everyone is singers who joins that group, but it doesn't matter. Although now I feel like everyone's, the last time I played with them was, Zach could tell me, we did it together. It was like a year and a half ago. Anyways, it's still the same energy of just like fast brains, fast lyrics, I've never seen people work together more. I feel like I've never been a part of that improv group mind more than in musical improv. It gets and I do a 2-person one with Eliza Skinner. Do you know who Eliza Skinner is? Of course you do.
Oh, I love her. Yeah.
I think it's called Skinner Box, and I've done it a couple times, and that's also amazing. When it's just the two of you, and it's like we're such nerds about it, so it's just like, ooh, I don't have to share as much. I'm just going to do more, just kidding. But no, it's just fun. It's a more fun way to even explore with like, it's even less of a safety net. It's like, oh shit, wait, there's only 2 of us. Oh, it's me again. It's like, there's not a 6th person to take a verse,
comedy theater nerds. Yeah. And that's like, I feel like you and Eliza are such a good example of like true Broadway nerds and comedy people.
Yeah.
Like,
totally.
Yeah, it's super fun to watch 8 people musically improv, but I would love to watch the 2 of you who are like legit singers. And
it's really fun. What's funny about musical improv, and also a shout out to any piano player do it. Scott, who did it on Off Book, he's a genius. And it's a hard thing to do. I don't know how to follow. Jody Shutt does it in YouTube that I mentioned. But I always found that I sang with more freedom, because when you're singing Wizard and I, for example, or anything, where the note ends high or something crazy, your voice has a tension with it. When you're making up music on the spot, you don't know where I would be hitting things, for stuff, because you don't know. Sometimes I'd be like that was, notes on the page, you're just freer. So I think that's what I also enjoy as a singer doing musical theater improv, because I'm not judging my voice at all, like, which is so silly that then I would do it other places. But that's, I'd say, what's also the most freeing about it. It's my favorite thing in the world.
I love that. Yeah, it feels like I've only done it a couple of times, but every time I do it, like you're saying, I'm like, God, I wish this could pay the bills because it does really hit
Right?
both of those comedy and theater uh, like things.
I know.
Someone in the comments, Whitney Dillon wants to know if you had any characters from Mad TV that didn't make it to air.
Let me think. No, although what's funny about because here's the thing, I went in with way more impressions than I did characters. Right? Like when you audition for stuff like that, like SNL or Mad, it usually they say three characters, three impressions, but it's like just go in there and make them laugh, you know. And to me, I felt like I was going to be more of an impressionist for them in terms of if I wanted to get my foot in the door, because I had so many that I had worked on. And I think I only did a handful of characters, like four or five, but like Disney Girl, if you really know your Mad TV sketches, that was one I auditioned with. And again, purely an excuse to sing in the audition, right? Because you just kind of wanted to put your best before. I was like, well, how do I get away with singing, you know? And but I did mostly impressions and singing impressions like Julie Andrews and Brittany and whatnot. But there was one character I auditioned with that was a lot of times what will happen is like you audition with a character and they say that they're going to write something for it, but they use an already existing recurring sketch and then kind of like shoehorn the character in, which is fine because that's what you have to do sometimes. It's not like when you're new, they're like, you're going to have your own sketch. It just makes the character a bit odd, you know? So that happened with this one character that I really liked doing. That was, I went to Indiana University for school, and it was like a very big Greek system there, lots of sorority girls. And I had a French. I took a lot of French because I had taken it throughout my life and just kept taking it at school. But like these like super hungover like sorority girls would come in, and I was just obsessed with how they had zero accent, but they would speak French. They'd be like trying to talk about their weekend in class. They're like, um, vendredi ce week-end, j'ai boire beaucoup de, comment dit-on beer? Boire, beaucoup de boire. Et aussi, I just loved it. I mean, I guess they're a little more Midwestern than that. There were a couple girls who were more like husky voice of like hot chick, the husky party voice. And so I did a character like that, but they already had a recurring. This is quite boring, probably. They had a
No,
recurring
I love
sorority
this.
sketch, KKK, yeah, and they were all just vapid, and I didn't even realize how they had named their sorority. And so they just kind of shoehorned me in, and I had those two lines. I had said "boku" or something like that, and it was fine. Like when you first join a sketch show, you imagine that character will become a thing, and then you're like, wah, wah. I had three lines, but it's part of being new, and you know, of course it's fine. I was fine with it at the time. I just felt like I should have done more with it or been funnier or whatever, but that's like the only thing. I mostly auditioned with impressions, and the other characters I did were ones that ended up happening on the show. If that answers your question, Whitney.
Yeah, I think that it does. How did that happen? How did you
And
get Mad
five
TV?
others we did not ask. Sorry?
How did you get Mad TV? Like, how did that audition come about and all
Oh,
of
it was
that?
so weird. I mean, yeah, I had done musical theater all through college. You're like, this isn't the answer to the question. This is how I answer questions. I go back 5 years. Um, no, but I mean, I just decided to audition for Boom Chicago really quickly, which is a theater in Amsterdam run by American comedians because everyone speaks English there and they love comedy. And I was there with Jordan Peele. I was there with Jason Sudeikis and Kay Cannon, everybody, truly Colton Dunn, and
Damn.
I mean, everybody. Ike Barinholtz, Seth Meyers was the director. It was crazy. It was the funniest people that there are. And Becky Drysdale, who wrote that, who's now the head writer for the Tonight Show at Jimmy Fallon, but she wrote that Les Mis sketch that you posted.
Amazing.
And so it was just everybody. And again, I did most of the singing in that at that uh, show, and there was a lot of musical improv. And what's so funny is I was 22, 23, living in Amsterdam, making a living as a comedian, and all I could think about was Broadway. I was like, oh, I gotta get going with my life. It's like, you are living your life. You are living in Europe and you are making money and you're going to London on the weekends. How dare you? Like, if I could go back in time, I'd be like, how dare you? And also there's a pandemic in 2020, prepare for it. But like I everyone, and what's kind of makes me sad, this is where it started, of like not being able to be happy, because everyone that I know from Boom is like, you always talked about Broadway. And I'm just like, really? I couldn't just be happy doing the job that I was doing. But you know, when you're that age,
Fuck Amsterdam.
when you're that age, everything is so, and when I talk to students who are like this now, everything is huge. Your life does feel like you're old. Your life does feel like you're running out of time. Like, I understand that. So I just kept thinking, well, I'm doing this, but I really, really, really want to do the other thing. And so I did live there for 2 years, and I did perform there for 2 years. And at that point, Seth had gone off and gotten SNL, and at that, his brother Josh was already, and Ike was already on MADTV. So all of our friends really just went to both shows. Like, we had friends equally on both shows, and it really just came down to which one you got to audition for first. I made a tape for SNL. I think like the weekend I sent it in was also the week how put it this way. I worked with Seth Meyers in a backyard in LA on both my MADTV and on SNL audition at the same time. Oh no, here it was. I worked with Josh. They were living in the same house. I worked with Josh on my MADTV audition. I worked with Seth, his brother, on my SNL audition. It was just exactly the same time. And what it really came down to is just timing, but also like the fact that my friend Keegan, I already knew Keegan at the time, and Jordan and I were best friends, and he had just gotten hired on Mad. Like, we got hired in a group. So, you know, the old thing of like, do you wish you'd done SNL? It's like, well, yeah, sure. SNL is like the gig, but also I was really young. I didn't know what I was doing. I'd never even done, I was kind of new to writing sketch. I don't know. I could say I would have become a star in SNL. I don't know. All I know is all my friends were Mad now, and I couldn't think of anything better than continuing to do sketches with Jordan Peele. Like, you know, and also I'm from here, so I was like, finally, I'll get to see my family, and this will be great. And also, oh, I'm living broke on a couch in New York. It's a job. I'm taking it. Like, you know, there's also
A
that.
job on TV. Yeah.
There's also that. But when
Yeah.
I got back to New York, I moved straight to New York and lived with a friend on the couch. And started auditioning for, you know, the non-equity where like the girls start a sign-up sheet at 6 a.m. and like by the time you audition at 5 p.m. you're like, what am I auditioning for? And now all my contacts were in comedy. So while I thought that like, in fact, you guys were talking about Brooklyn, you and Julie. I remember getting back to New York, and the first time my friend Brent was showing me all the songs of like what was popular at the time, and he played me Brooklyn, and I just, my heart fell. My heart fell. That's not a thing. My heart fell.
It
And I was just
fell
like,
out of your butt.
I don't know if I can sing like that. Oh, that's what you have to do to sing on Broadway. What have I done? I should have stayed in comedy. And so all the gigs that I started auditioning for were comedic, and I started performing with Baby Wants Candy at comedy festivals. And I was like, this is so weird. I moved here to do Broadway. I'm doing all this comedy stuff, you know? And so what happened was MADTV. Oh, here's the answer, Nicole. How long did that take? And so basically Ike and Josh were already out there doing MADTV, and what they would always say is, hey, we're going out to New York. Is there anyone we should look out for? And that was exactly how I got that audition, completely because of them. Now, I had to audition like 5 times after that, and they couldn't help me. But the initial audition was definitely because I had friends that we all had each other's back as we continued on past Amsterdam and tried to get each other jobs, you know? And so the MADTV audition came up first. I had taken a job at Second City, Cleveland, RIP Second City, Cleveland.
Hey,
But
I'm from Sandusky, Ohio.
oh, that's right, you are. Isn't that where Cedar Point is?
America's Rock and Roller Coast.
That's
Yeah.
right. But I don't know what this
I didn't
is.
even know that was a
What
thing. Second City,
I think I did
Cleveland.
this because I just assumed this move must have been in a show at Cedar Point at one point. Maybe like an 80s medley. There's no way that it wasn't.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But and the choreographer drilled it into their bodies at like in like the humidity of the summer of Sandusky.
I worked at Cedar Point.
Of course you did. I'd be disappointed if you hadn't. Please tell me the name of the show that you were in.
Signed, Sealed, Delivered in the summer. And then for Halloween, we did a Halloween's show called Halloween Hullabaloo.
Thank you. That was the correct answer. So anyways, I had taken this job because, you know, in Amsterdam, they did this really cool thing where the Second City main stage show of Chicago flipped and took over our stage, and we went to Chicago and did our show there for 2 weeks. So it was like amazing. And at that point, I was thinking I was going to leave and move to Chicago and try to do Second City, but the director was like, let's plug you into Cleveland. And I was literally on the ride from the airport in a taxi to start my first rehearsal in Cleveland, and I got the phone call that I got MADTV. So I arrived to rehearsal and I was like, I have to go. And so I got as close as you could possibly be to being a Second City alumni, but I'm not.
At the last second.
At the last second. So it was a weird way that I got Mad TV is the 5-hour answer.
That's fucking cool. And then we sort of skimmed over it, but how did Elphaba happen? Was that because of Bernie Telsey?
Kind of, honestly. It was because of it was because he cast that show, and I come out. It was only because of Mad TV that I got the audition for the Martin Short thing, because the showrunner at Mad was a guy named Dick Blasucci, who was an old friend of Marty's, and Marty called him up and was like, "Do you have anyone who sings and who can do impressions and whatever?" And so I remember going out to audition for that, and Bernie Telsey outside was like, it's funny because for me it was a dream, because as a kid all I did was like listen to the records, memorized Your Fault from Into the Woods. I mean, like I was just all in on both things. So I think he thought that maybe I didn't want to do Broadway or didn't know it, because he was like, you can do this. And I want to be like, oh God, okay, great. No, you don't have to convince me. Like, I really want to, I want to move out here. I want it, but this random Mad TV thing happened first, and it's backwards, and it doesn't always happen the way you think it's going to happen. And that is why I did so much singing on Mad TV. I was like, I want to keep doing that. So when, Bernie just said that one day, and he was like, you should audition for The Real Thing. And I think that was probably, I don't know, 2006 or 2007. And I think I auditioned, it must have been in 2008. So it was like a year or so before, kind of out of the blue, they called for me to, they were auditioning in LA. And I auditioned in August, and I didn't even hear until October. And I was shooting randomly a Judd Apatow film that was on very long hours that I had a very tiny part in. And I remember I had to take a red eye to do the songs for Joe Mantello and Stephen Aremus and everyone that was going to be in the room. But we shot that night till like, I don't know, 1 a.m. And I had to go home and basically sleep for 3 hours. No, I think I took a red eye. Sorry, I took a red eye. That's right. So we must have shot all day, and I went straight to the airport. I landed. Someone took me to my hotel. I literally had time to just run upstairs and not do anything. I didn't even have time to warm up. And I just remember laughing, going, because I practiced in my little tiny trailer all day long. I was just singing, and it was really cute because the ladies in the makeup trailer were like, "You're gonna audition for Wicked. This is exciting." I'm just got some tiny little part in a Judd Apatow film where like Seth Rogen and I are in a pool randomly hooking up. Or we don't hook up. I can't remember. But it was such a strange, bizarre experience, because for something as major as auditioning for Wicked, you want to be well rested, and like I got there and I warmed up. That's just not how it worked out for me, And so I think I just laughed and was like, "There's nothing I can do. There's nothing I can do but go in there and try my best." And what's funny about it is that I sang. It was supposed to be, it's really easy. It's just the end of Wizard and I and the end of Defy Gravity. Just like without any kind of ramp. That's what the audition was just those two last parts that are just the hardest. And then a couple scenes. And I remember, I think I did the scenes, and then I sang the end of Wizard and I, and they went, "Thank you." And again, I just was so tired and wasn't thinking. The only thing in my head was, I flew all night long. I'm going to sing the end of Defy Gravity. This is ridiculous. And I don't feel like I was bossy about it. All I did was I said, oh wow. I just, made myself deaf in this ear. I just ripped out half my ear. I think I literally just said, "Oh, you don't need to hear Defying Gravity?" And it was almost as if it didn't even occur to Joe. He went, "Oh yeah, let's hear that." And I was like, "Oh my God."
Oh fuck.
I came no, it wasn't that. It was like, if I hadn't said anything, I wouldn't have gotten to sing it. I just really felt like,
oh, you wanted to sing it.
I did, because remember, I flew all night long. This is my one chance. I'm not going to sing both songs. Like, I know that sounds backwards, but it was like, no. I've had quite a 24 hours, like I'm going to give it all.
Yeah.
And
I came all the way out here.
And also, like, it's a fan thing, right? It's like, well, this might be the only time I get to sing Defying Gravity, in New York, and and then what's funny is I ended up that night, there's another weird thing that someone whatever, that's too long a story. Anyhow, so that was the thing. And then I had to go right back. So and then I don't think I heard for like another little while. And then was truly shocked when he said that I was going to do it in New York. I mean, me and my husband, who is then my boyfriend, were both like, Did they get it wrong? Your agents got it wrong. That's not what it is. That's incorrect. And I'm not saying that because it was like, oh, I was so amazing. It's like, no. I was truly terrified. I was like, they are wrong. Like, I don't know what they are thinking. It was, and I do think that they should have started me on tour first. Honestly, I don't think that I was ready. I don't know how you could be, having never done it before, especially since everyone else had a chance, to sort of
work their way in, or
because I understand if you're a fan and you've been seeing these girls, and also the fans used to follow it was like a farm system, right? Like baseball was literally like, you start understudy, standby, then you go do tour, and you fall in love with these different girls and you root for them to take over the part, and then all of a sudden it's like, who? And I remember, because Julia was talking about accidentally reading a message board, and like I said, when I was at MADTV and I didn't even think I'd ever do the show, I just looked up stuff for it because I was a fan. So then I found stuff, and then I didn't even think to me. I was like, whoa, these guys are harsh. It never occurred to me that later on they'd be harsh to me, because now I'm actually playing the role. And someone sent me, I don't know why, this is back in the day when people didn't know better. I forget who sent it to me, but they were like, someone was complaining about how now they were already stunt casting Elphaba because they were putting a celebrity in it, and someone was like running to my defense going, Nicole Parker is not a celebrity. And it was like, okay, thanks, but like, okay, but also I did not think of myself as a celebrity at all. But it was kind of surprising to me that was the thought, because to me, I'm a theater kid. I was like, I'm not a TV person. There was even some sort of like attitude with some people at the time putting me through rehearsal that were like, wow, we're just so impressed, your lines, you're from TV. And I'm just like, I'm not from TV. This was a mistake. I'm a theater nerd. Please understand. I already did the show here a couple years ago, but no one saw it. So it was just really weird. For me, it was weird because I was like, not at all nervous to sing on stage in Marty's show. And then all of a sudden I just became terrified too. And so I just think that I get it. People want a finished product when you arrive on that stage. And normally the women have done it before, but I had whatever, the 2 weeks, the 3 weeks, the one put in, which happened the day Sully landed his plane in the Hudson River. I will never forget that.
No way.
Because I came off stage and I was just a mess, right? And people were like, someone landed in the Hudson River. And I was like, do you know what I just did? I just landed my own plane in my own river. No, he had a harder day.
Debatable.
Where's my movie? I'm just kidding. But yeah, that was a terrifying day. And it was a terrifying, cold, rainy, snowy, as we all know, January day. And so it's
really,
I can hear that I'm afraid, if I hear a recording of myself where I'm like, that's not me, that's not, what am I doing? And I was just it's terrifying because people are filming you in the front row, and again, because I knew those things get put on YouTube, and then people underneath are like, IMHO, she shouldn't be doing the part, or she's not good, or it's flat, or whatever. I was like, oh great, people are going to be saying that about me. So then now you have to shift your brain, and you're like, I need to keep doing my job. And now I'm just thinking about how it's going to be online, and that was a new experience because that wasn't a thing a few years before.
That all happened very fast.
It happened very fast. And so, it was just, it's such psychological warfare. Elf was really psychological warfare. I mean, on top of everything else, it's okay now, but it wasn't for a while. It definitely changes. It alters your DNA a little bit doing that role. And it's, an amazing gift that comes with a price for everybody in whatever way it takes form. It takes form in many different, it takes many different forms, I'm not making any sense anymore. But it comes with a price, I think, of some sort. But I would have no regrets doing it. I think because I got to do it a second time and sort of just righted the ship, meaning my own self and mental state about it, that I have nothing but like, a wonderful memory. It was a great chapter close, it was like, okay, that's where we started and this is where we ended. And this is great. Like, I'm very lucky I got to do it a second time.
That's really cool. And for what it's worth, I know we're not supposed to listen to bootlegs, but I've listened to
We're
every
not.
bootleg of you on YouTube doing it, and you sound fucking incredible.
Well, that's
And
kind. I don't like anything that's out there online. But also there's nothing from tour. I was like, one time I was like, I would love to see if there's something from tour. And there's like nothing. And I was like, oh, I did so much better on tour. But no one will know. No one will know except for
no
maybe
one will
people in
know.
Sacramento, because I keep on mentioning Sacramento.
At one
Um,
point in one of the bootlegs, when Glinda puts the cape on you, and she's like, "Here, we can do whatever." When the cape like snaps on before you fly, the guy holding the camera goes, "Oh boy, here we go!" So cute.
that's
They're so
adorable.
excited. Oh,
That's
oh boy,
adorable.
here we go. Nathaniel Leeson in the comments asks, of the three 11 o'clock numbers, he calls them, I'm assuming he means Wizard and I, No Good Deed, and Defying
Mhm.
Gravity, which one was your favorite to sing?
Definitely not Wizard and I. Wizard and I is just like a a paper cut with lemon on it. I feel like it's just when you're on tour, especially, and you have to sing it again, like at 1 p.m. It's like, here, have this, do this. It can be such an insult when you wake up and you're like, are you fucking kidding me? I have to do that. It is so long and it is so, and you're just not, the body's not warmed up by 1 p.m. for a show. I just promise you it's not. Like, you can try all you want in the shower for an hour prior. It doesn't matter. Like, I never really felt quite ready to do Wizard and I. And again, like I said, I found love for it on the tour. I loved it a lot more. But it's the start of the show. So I'd say it's like a tie between Defying Gravity and No Good Deed. I think that it's probably Defying Gravity just because it's so damn fun to fly. It's just fun. It's so fun. So even if you're like having a rough vocal day, like you can find a way to sort of, use, emote or try something different, but it's just so fun. I mean, there's nothing like finishing that song and the lights go out. Like, I can't even explain the rock star kind of, well, hopefully, unless you really sucked it up. But like it's not even just you, right? I mean, like, anyone up there in the whole spectacle, you're gonna be like, yay. It doesn't have to be me or anyone. The whole thing as a unit is so stunning as a act closer. So to be on stage, but you receive the energy just because you're in the dark, and you're the one left, because everyone's cleared out. It's just so fun. But I'd say like No Good Deed, like on a Sunday, is more fun than Defy Gravity, because like I said, that's when you're just like, this is the last song, I can toss off
Yeah.
some fun stuff, you know. Um, and I started really enjoying No Good Deed on tour. I just like started having like much more fun with it, and also there's not as much running because there's so much running and distance to cover on Broadway. I know you've heard probably the stories from other girls about the stairs that are literally this steep that some girls just slide down. They just lift up their legs and slide down. And that run happens before both huge songs. It's like, here's a song, but also run at a dead, just like a dead sprint just to get there in time before both songs. Um, and
And
then
the dress is really heavy, right?
and the
I heard
dress
you
is
say that on
heavy.
Off Book.
I mean, right. But I will say, like, there's a lot of talk. I've heard it weighs 20 pounds, 60 pounds. I don't know. I never weighed it. All I know is, my husband is a former Marine. And, when I first told him that, he was like, it weighs 40 pounds. And he handed me two 20-pound weights. And I was like, he's like, it can't weigh that much. Because I was like, I can't even barely lift this. I don't know how, again, like, I think that's part of the lore of Wicked, right? Like, her head will fall off. The gown weighs 180 pounds. It's like it gets so blown out of proportion because of course it does, right? I don't know how much it weighs, but yes, it's heavy. But not. I honestly think, which dress I think is heavier. I felt them both. Glinda's blue bubble dress. That thing is heavy, and it's
Yeah.
wide. Okay, like it's so big that in some theaters, I hilariously am going to mention Sacramento again. Shout out Sacramento. Shout out
You're
Sacramento.
obsessed with Sacramento.
This was with Sacramento. She actually had to get dressed. Allie had to get dressed outside of the dressing room because it was so tiny it could not hold her dress. So I think that dress is heavier. But yes, what's harder is not that dress. What's harder is Defying Gravity with a book that's actually heavy. It's practical. That grimoire is heavy. A book bag, a broom that is also heavy, a cape that's cumbersome, a hat. Like, it's so much. It's ridiculous. Like, and then you're standing on something this big. You know, it's that's a little nuts. That's why I really enjoy singing Defy Gravity in symphonies now, because like you're not green, you're standing. Although if you want to see something really fun and silly, I think it's on my Facebook. I don't know. I sang with the Cincinnati Pops 2 years ago and did Defying Gravity, and there was a cirque like a Russian acrobats performing above me.
Oh shit.
It was one of these like dual concerts where it's like the singers sing and then there's like someone hanging from a trapeze half naked above you. It's the only time I've ever sung Defying Gravity. There's like huge like applause, but in the middle of like boring notes, it's because, oh yeah, there's a guy hanging upside down. It's like no one's listening to me. You're like, something has changed within me, something. And you're like, that's not normally a clap moment. But they thought, oh, it'd be really fun if maybe she gets involved and gets up on the trapeze too, which I said yes to on the phone. But when I arrived, it meant just a long trapeze without any harness. And I'm supposed to sit on it and just went straight up.
What?
And then it started turning during rehearsal, and then it started spinning. There's a video of it. I can't remember where. I'll send you the link.
You're just like, ah.
That is correct. That's exactly what happened during rehearsal. And I wanted to throw up. I don't know if there's video of that, but you can see me in the actual video. It does start to turn at the end. And I just give you like a real strong like hand in hoping that it would like stop me from spinning. Anyways, those two songs are like, they're equal for me. Those two songs are both so badass. I love them. And every once in a while, before I did tour, I would like be making dinner, another firework. I'd be making dinner and I'd be like, maybe I want to sing Defying Gravity. Maybe try No Good Deed for a second, just maybe. And I would never get through the song. I would always peter out at some point and be like, ugh, whatever, what am I doing? I'm making dinner. I'm not getting paid for this. I'm not going to finish this song. It's too hard. It's like when you haven't done it for a while, you realize just how truly that person's right. Like 11 o'clock number, just how truly hard it is. But yeah, like I said, there's nothing like when you're feeling great. There's nothing like finishing an 8-show week and like, I'll use a different city for you now, picking on Sacramento. But like, I remember I was in Salt Lake one time and it was just very hot. It was dead of August and I finished 8 shows a week and I left. No one was really at the stage door. I just walked home and I was like, wow. I was like, I just did 8 shows of Elphaba. No one's around, but I just, for me, get to know like, I did that. And like, I feel great. And I don't have any problems right now. Like there's nothing like it. And then when you aren't well, it's the hardest thing in the world.
I cannot imagine.
I gave birth to a baby that came out of my body last summer. And there were times when I was pregnant and also like during recovery that were tough. And I'd be like, at least I don't have to sing Wizard Night at 1 p.m. And I literally would think that gives you an idea of how hard the role is.
Damn. If I were you, Nicole, and I had the comedy chops you have, and I'd also play Elphaba, I would talk to my husband like this. I would be like, can you rub my feet while you take care of the baby? And can you make me some food?
Well, look,
I played Elphaba.
I have to give him a shout out in that there should also be a support group for partners of Elphaba, POE. Because that's not an easy job either. Like he used to say, I don't know what's worse, dealing with you when you decide to do the show and don't feel well and don't feel good about your show and come home crying about it, or when you decide to call out of the show and just sit on the couch for 3 hours crying about the fact that you called out of the show. Like there was no way to deal with me. Either way devastated me. And I did this whole regime in the morning and like, it was just... It was so hard in New York. It was just so hard. It was the longest winter. It was always cold.
It's such a tough city in general.
He made a video of me one morning and I was like looking back at it from like years ago. I was like, oh my God, I'm just bony and skinny and white and ashen. And all I wanted to do was make an egg. And when I would break the yolk, I'd almost cry like, I broke the yolk.
Oh my God.
It's like all I had to look forward to in the morning before doing 2 shows. And he would leave a little note for me on the closet door where I meditated before each show. And like by the end, there was like, I saved them all. There's like 100, I don't know, 350, however many shows I did. But like he took very, very good care of me. And then on tour, he worked back and forth. I mean, he wasn't always with me for that, but it was the same thing of like, the same stuff. I would always call him, a lot of times at intermission, or maybe I'd call him at like the 120-minute break you get, or I would just text him and I'd be like, I'm getting sick, and I'm gonna have to call out. And he would always say, wait till you're, like I told you at For Good, he's like, wait till For Good, or wait till the curtain call, wait till you are done with this show, because you can't assess how you are. It's all the sports psychology of it, right? You can convince
Yeah.
yourself that you're starting to, because I mean, anyone who does 8 shows a week, but especially Elphaba, knows you wake up, bing, and you go, and you try it. But almost 9 times out of 10, I would get to For Good and be done with the show and be in the shower, and I'd be like, yeah, he's right, I feel fine. It was just the mountain of 3 hours of doing Elphaba that was too terrifying and too daunting that your brain started thinking you were sick. The other funny thing about being in a relationship while you're Elphaba is like anytime we got into an argument, I tried to fight with vocal health. So instead of like yelling, it'd be like a very supported yell. I'd be like, I will have you know, I am very upset with you. Like it was supported and also high, but like not like down here. And it must have sounded ridiculous.
Don't ever talk to me that way again.
Correct. There was also one time that, like, again, I only like to eat like 4 types of food, like just 4 exact meals. And one of them was like this dumb lean cuisine meal. And we were out of it and he had to go down at like, I don't know. There was one night where he had to go down 3 times to the Food Emporium because I lived right across from the theater. And the third time the woman was like, honey, when is she due? And he was like, oh, she's not pregnant. She's just Elphaba. Like it was just, she was convinced he had a pregnant wife at home who was like, go get me this, But it was just me with green ears being like, I forgot, I need graham crackers. I need graham crackers.
I love that so much. A Partners of Elphaba is a very real thing.
It's a real thing because they get
that.
nothing. Again, it's very similar to being pregnant with the partner, but like they get very little because you have nothing to give. You have nothing else to give.
I've never dated an Elphaba, but my boyfriend was a swing on the Aladdin tour. He's in the other room and I can hear him laughing so much at this. He was a swing. He covered 12 tracks. So every day it would be like, oh, now you're on for so-and-so. And he would go through that anxiety spiral. And one day I came home and he was crying in the I hope he's not mad for me for telling this. He was crying in the bathtub because the show didn't go how he wanted it to, because like one small thing went wrong. And I just remember being like, okay, yeah, I'll get you whatever you need today. Yeah. Whatever it is. But post-it notes, that's really sweet that he did that. That's like a really good way to help.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes they'd be silly and sometimes it'd be just a drawing or whatever, just something. And like I said, the second time around, it was just so much more fun. And like, didn't worry about it as much. And it was still very challenging because, of course, like with tour, the second that you get your show dialed in with your dresser, because you don't travel with the dresser, and your sound and the elevation or the climate, it's like, then you have to shift all over again. It's like a constant adjustment period.
Damn.
That is a whole nother thing that you don't consider. Until you're doing it. But I had good months to do it. It would be very hard to tour during the winter. We just did summer into fall and it was great, or spring into summer and it was great. So it was again, like I said, it was so much fun. I had a great time. And both times the company, I don't know, Wicked has a way of just amassing people that have the same sensibility. Every one of them should have their own sitcom. They're all stars. They're all hilarious. Like just the friends for life, in both companies. Those people, they're amazing.
That's so cool. Mm-hmm. Tom Link in the comments said, shout out old Sac.
Guys, who knew that Sacramento would be the star of tonight?
Who wants to talk Ladybird trivia? Who wants to?
Exactly.
Somebody else in the comments said, oh, this is a good question. What if you could, they said if you could originate any role in a musical, what would it be? But I think what they mean is like if there's any part in a musical, what
it would be Sally and Once Again Round Old Foghorn Mountain. I mean, I'm just making up a show. I don't know. I'm not making fun of the question, guys. I'm just having fun with the question.
If you could play any part. I think it means like if you could play any part, yeah. Or I think what they mean is like if you could have originated any musical throughout time.
Why do we ask them? Can they clarify? I want to answer the question.
Yeah. Let's
tell the poster to clarify. I mean, in the meantime, I'll say I would still love to play Funny Girl again. It was literally, or Fanny Brass again. It was literally one of my favorite jobs ever.
Can you talk more about that? I really want to. I wish I could see you in that show.
I do too. It was funny because I had auditioned for. I was there with a bunch of other Elphabas in the callbacks for when they were going to do it with Lauren Ambrose, the one with Bart Schur directing. We're going to do.
Yeah.
Um, and so it was like all of us right down at the end, it was a lot of the gals that you would expect and a lot of rounds of callbacks. And what's funny is I think I did a good job when I did it finally. I do not think I would have done a good job if I had gotten it. So that's why I did get it. It's correct. So it's kind of funny, but I already had like this experience with it. But then went off and did a million other things and had life happen and did Wicked for a second time and felt more comfortable with the music and saw that they were doing it at this theater company kind of based in Orange County, but they also go to Redondo Beach. Which then I guess counts as LA, but it's sort of like SoCal, company called 3D Theatricals. And I saw they were doing Funny Girl, and like I don't know where I was. Maybe I was out of town. I was like, oh, I should audition. And then I was just like, maybe something will happen, and they won't find who they want, and I don't know. And that's kind of what happened. Someone ended up emailing me, say, hey, can I give your email to this artistic director? They're looking for a funny girl. And I was like, okay, like great. And the director was this guy named Michael Matthews, who's brilliant and wonderful. And, everyone, I assume will know his name someday. He was so great. And we went out and we met. So it is weird. It's weird that I didn't technically audition, which is strange. And here's the thing. Here's my theory with Funny Girl. I'm not sure that anyone will ever get Funny Girl if they audition for it. Like it's too ridiculous. It's too ridiculous a thing to have to audition for a part that Barbra Streisand made famous. It's like you're never
Yeah.
gonna get it. No one's ever gonna get it. It's gonna be. That's not true. I know people have auditioned and gotten it, but like in general, like I feel like it's going to be offered to someone. If it's like whenever it's on like on Broadway, it's going to be like offered to someone. Like it's just maybe you'll have like a work session with the director, but it's not just going to be like, "Hi, my name's Nicole Parker and I'm singing "I Greatest Star." Like it's just too hard. It's too ridiculous a notion because of the history you're standing in front of. So I think that's the only reason I got to do it is because I didn't audition. Because like I'm saying, they would have found something wrong with me. They've been like, "Well, she's just not enough this." Um, and so we just kind of hit it off. And but they had obviously they watched clips from me from Wicked and from MADTV and were like, well, she'll do. But I think that this took a lot of pressure after doing like 5 rounds the first time for that show to all of a sudden meeting with the director, just kind of talking about it, was perfect. And it was it's really funny because the rehearsal process was great. It was challenging. There were times I didn't even know what to do with these songs because again, it's too iconic. But I had a great guy playing Nicky Arnstein, Josh Adamson. He's amazing. And the cast, same thing with the Funny Girl cast. That was one of those shows where it's like lightning in a bottle of a group of people that just loved each other so much, and we just celebrated each other. It was like, one of those special times where it's like every single person is just there. The synergy so good. And so it was just having had done Elphaba made it so much easier. I was like, oh, I know how to do this. My voice knows how to do this. I know I will be fine. It's hard, it's challenging, but like I said, it's just not the same. It's like, oh, now I get to do this scene. This scene's fun. This song's funny. It's not, like I said, crying and running and Elphaba, and like, monkeys and yelling and all that takes its toll on you. But I do remember that I wasn't sure it would work. I knew it was going to be a thing to like, I knew a lot of people from LA would come to see it. I knew a lot of people who loved the original show were going to see it. And I remember the very first, I guess, I don't even know if we had previews, but whatever. The first time we were doing it, and I think it was like a random matinee, I felt like there wasn't really much laughter after the first song, or I couldn't hear anything. And I walked off stage and I literally was just such a doomsday person. I was like, well, it didn't work. I just like written off the whole run of the show. I was just like, I didn't succeed. Like I didn't, oh well, too bad. And then even within that show, it totally, the audience was there. I think I was just so defeatist about it because I was so nervous at first because I was like, I don't know if any of this is going to work. And I know it's such a ridiculous ask for anyone to do that part now. But I do remember walking off stage. I was very like mature and resolved about it. I was like, it didn't work. We tried. No one's going to like it. Everyone's going to hate this, but that's not what happened. Many people enjoyed it. Thank God. And, it was so much fun to do. And so, I mean, yes, I'd love to do that. But if I had to, I don't know if they clarified the question, but like in terms of originating a role, I would just love to originate a role. There's been a lot of shows, right? There's a lot of shows that are movie musicals. You got Doubtfire and Tootsie, and you've got a lot of movie Groundhog Day, where the main Honeymoon in Vegas, the main role is a man who gets to be funny, and then usually the female is at the side,
Hmm.
and I would love, this has nothing to do with the actual production. I would have loved to see Groundhog Day where the character's female. I just think that'd be an amazing perspective of like, what if a woman was in that situation?
Yeah.
What choices would she make and everything? So I'd like to originate a role like that where it's either a reimagined successful movie, but we put a woman in there, um, or something where the woman gets to be that guy, the part that's usually a male part or male role. It gets to be a woman who's screwball or whatever. And what's funny is the older musicals used to be that. It used to be about the screwball women, right? It used to be
Hmm. Anything
anything from Once
goes.
Upon a Mattress, anything goes,
Yeah.
anything Mermaid, Annie Get Your Gun. Like that's where you go
Yeah.
for the roles that were female who were and look, I mean, in light of everything that's going on right now, we certainly need more roles for every kind. We know we need more trans roles. We need LGBTQ representation. We need people of color. We need Black people. We need it to be more diverse in every way. Before we even need to talk about the roles women need to play. But I'm talking specifically comedically. I feel like on Broadway, comedy these days belongs to men. Like if you take a look at Something
Hmm.
Rotten, there were like 6 roles for men. And again, I love Something Rotten. This is not a diss on Something Rotten. There's like 6 amazing roles for men that I would have loved to play any of them. See, like I look at that show and I'm like, oh, I want to play Shakespeare. I don't.
Right.
Yes, there were 2 women. They're both friends of mine. They're amazing roles. I mean, amazing women. But like when I look at the roles, yes, they're good, but boy, there were 6 roles for men, and 2 for women, and it's like, okay, I just would like to see that shift a little bit, and I think there need to be more women writing women's stories. I think it needs to start with the Janine Tessoris of the world, or the Lisa Krohns of the world, like which more of that of like who's a strong comedic voice, back when Lily Tomlin used to do a one woman show or Gilda Radin used to do a one woman show. That's what I would really like to see, and of course I'm trying to write something like that myself, but so whether it's I write it or someone else writes it with or for me or just for anyone, and then I audition for it and hopefully get it. I would like to see that because I do feel like specifically comedy, which is of course what I'm going to care about on Broadway, I feel like that still needs to diversify a lot. And so as a
Yeah.
comedian, I would like to see a show where it's almost like harkening back to the old days of Funny Girl, where it's like, that's why 9 to 5 was so amazing, right? 3 women, front and center. And that's like one of the only few ones I can think of in recent memory, that especially was like a movie based musical that showcased female comedians.
Yeah, you're right.
Sister Act
Even as
2.
I,
Sister Act 2 is like the
yeah,
only other one. Yeah.
but yeah, they're definitely. I mean, selfishly, I really want that too. Like I just want to see women being funny. Like I
Yeah.
always, obviously, my obsession with Elphaba, I always, as a little gay boy, relate to the female characters. And yeah, other than like Spelling Bee, that has like great roles for comedic roles for women, but that was years ago. Like Book of Mormon is very male heavy. Like
Hmm.
there's a lot of those shows are really dude heavy, and it
Hmm.
would be really great to finally see some representation for female comedy on Broadway.
Yeah, and I think that's
Um,
only going to be with repurposing a title that already exists, like property that exists, but turning it on its head or just creating something new.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Bridesmaids would make a hell of a
Oh,
musical.
that would be funny.
Um, uh, we have to wrap up soon, but
Yes,
this
we
has
do,
been
because this computer
so
is so
fun.
hot on my lap.
That
And that's
sometimes
the
that
only
happens.
reason
These
why.
Zoom is burning up. Before we go, we play this game every single slumber party called Wait, Let's Have Fun. In
Uh-uh.
this game, we play a couple of slumber party games, and I have a special one for you, Nicole. This is a okay, we're at a slumber party. We're
Wait,
playing
I changed
Mary.
mine. I want to originate the role of Cassidy in Wait, Let's Have Fun.
Not Cassidy. Okay, great. You have
Mm.
officially booked Cassidy.
Yes.
In Wait, Let's Have Fun, we're gonna play a slumber party game, and that
Okay.
is a Mary Fuck Kill. For
Whoa.
Mary
Just
Fuck
wasn't like prepared
Kill.
for that phrase. I don't know why.
Oh, you never played MF Mary
Yes, you
Fuck
have to
Kill?
understand that like all day long, I'm just doing this. Like, are you big boy? Did you stand up? Oh, ducky, go quack quack. So to hear Mary fuck kill just all of a sudden broke my brain because it's just not my world right now. Unless I'm going a fishy go. I don't know what I'm saying and I don't know what's happening. So I just have to rearrange my brain to like being a adult again without children. Okay. Mary
You can
fuck
respond to me as if I am an infant. If that makes you feel better,
and
I
I don't
will.
think you
I
wanted me
respond well to
to respond with like, oh, me and my son play this all the time. He
it.
wants to marry Nemo, fuck Dory, and kill squirts.
So, the Mary fuck kill I have for you is okay. Joe Mantello comes up to you right before Defying Gravity. He says, "We're changing the show." He stops you in the wings and he's like, "We're changing the show. And I need you to do Defying Gravity either as you have to marry, fuck, kill any of these three impressions. Are you doing it as Renee Zellweger, Ashlee Simpson, or Ellen DeGeneres? You have to marry, fuck, kill all three of your own impressions."
Oh, I would marry Ellen DeGeneres because she's my favorite impression that I do, and also I don't have any reservations about that impression. I would, I would, I would like to fuck and kill both Ashlee Simpson and Renee Zellweger impressions because both of them make me feel bad now, as well as the Britney Spears impressions. Need to get this off my chest because these days, when you look back, you're like, oh, some of them were a little too mean, I thought. And sometimes I'm like, Britney was just trying to get through life, guys. Like we just did too many Britney Spears sketches. But Renee, guess Renee's the one I would I guess Ashlee Simpson I would kill because that was the one I didn't write that sketch, but I felt like that one was too mean. So we'll kill that one and we'll fuck Renee Zellweger impression. How about that?
I love that. I
Okay.
love that. I would love to see you do an impression of Renee Zellweger's Oscar speech sometime.
Well, but it was weird. See, now I just said like what was too mean, but now I'm going to talk about her. But it seems like she became Southern in the last year. Am I crazy? She didn't have that accent.
That's it.
We're
Finley,
like,
yeah.
all
It,
talking like this. And I was just like, what? Whoa, you didn't used to talk like that. And
what's
I know she's from
happening?
Texas. It just kind of like maybe she was always trying to like, repress it and it's just coming out now. I don't know. I don't know. Like let's just leave Renee Zellweger alone.
Let's leave her alone. She's
Alone. She's
let's
sweet.
leave her
Just two
alone.
Oscars. Live her life.
Yeah, she's great. Loved her
Right.
in Cold Mountain. What else is there to say?
Cold Mountain's the
Um,
weirdest movie ever.
it's such a strange film. It's such a sad, weird film.
Why did that movie have to get made? Ugh.
I'm out here standing in the
Kill
rain.
Cold Mountain. That's
Kill Cold Mountain.
Mhm.
Kill Cold Mountain. Nicole, thank you so much for doing this. This was so much fun. I
Thank
really
you for
appreciate
having
it.
me.
Yeah. Do you want to plug where
I
people
want to
can find
plug.
you?
You can find me in my house in pajamas, changing diapers. If you want to subscribe, let me know. It is really great content. I
You have
mean,
a podcast,
I'm
right?
on it. Yes, it's not our 2 seasons are up on Earwolf. It's called The Neighborhood List, and I do it with Paul F. Tompkins. We take real posts from next like apps about neighborhood goings on. You know what I mean? Like everyone, there's a bunch of apps like that. I'm not naming one for legal reasons, but we all know what those are. You go on to your
Yeah.
like zip code and you see what's going on, and there's ridiculous things constantly. So we have an improviser on as a guest, either as the person who was posted about or the person who posted, and they get the prompt, and then we just we just improvise about that. So it's found on anywhere you listen to podcasts actually now. I think you can get it anywhere because it's behind the paywall finally. And off book, I'm at a bunch of those. You can follow me on Instagram, NF Parker Girl. I do a bunch of impressions there. I have a couple IGTVs where I did a lot of impressions because I got very bored and I look just like this when I do them. I don't really do much work. I got dressed up for Adele. I did get dressed up I put some lashes on for Adele. So you can go there and enjoy that because I'm still trying to do some sort of sketch every once in a while to keep creative. So that's all I got. Other than that,
Yeah.
stay safe, everybody. Please stay safe.
Yeah. Wear a damn mask,
Wear a damn
please.
mask. Wear a damn mask.
Yeah, thank you so much. This was truly such a blast. What an awesome slumber party. And
That's great.
thank you.
You're welcome. And take care. Nice to meet you.
Yeah. Nice to meet you too. Bye, everybody.